Welcome to the exciting time on Worldview today. Today, the spotlight will still be on the Middle East, where the conflict has entered the feast day. We'll also take a moment to take a listen to what the first lady at first time at the United Nations, what she had to say about the conflict, especially concerning the children. So today on Worldview, we begin with a sad development. Now, this is where funerals have been Many thanks for staying tuned. First on Worldview today, funerals have been held for students and staff killed in what Iranian authorities have said was a U.S.-Israeli strike on a school in southern Iran. Iran officials said more than 160 people were killed when a girls' school was hit in the city of Minab on Saturday, as the U.S. and Israel launched widespread strikes targeting Iran's military site and leadership. Meanwhile, international media house has not been able to independently verify the Iranian authorities' death toll. The school was located near and coffins were seen dropped in the flag of the Islamic Republic was hit by 3 missiles on Saturday morning. It was located about 600 meters from the IRGC base. The 6-day working week in Iran runs from Saturday to Thursday, with Friday being the only official day of rest, meaning the school was likely occupied when it was hit. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian called the incident a barbaric act and another black page in a record of countless crimes committed by the aggressor. In the meantime, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said U.S. forces would not deliberately target the school after Iranian state media reported over 160 were killed in a strike in a girls' school on the first day of the U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran. The reported strike took place on a girls' elementary school in the town of Minab in southern Iran on Saturday, marking the deadliest incident in the U.S. and Israel's war against Iran. The incident has been condemned by the UN Culture and Education Agency, UNESCO, and also Nobel Peace Prize winner education activist Malala Yousafzai deliberately condemned the attack. Let's take a listen to what U.S. Secretary of State had to say.
Seen those reports. I would refer you, not because I'm not trying to answer your question, but I don't want to get it wrong. The Department of War would be investigating that if that was our strike, and I would refer your question to them, and I'll make sure they're aware that you have that question. But we'd like to know. Well, clearly, the United States would not deliberately target a school. Our objectives are missiles, both the ability to manufacture them and the ability to launch them, and the one-way attract drones. That would be our focus, and that's what we would be focused on. We would have no interest and, frankly, no incentive to target civilian infrastructure. The Iranians are, on the other hand, targeting civilian infrastructure. You guys have seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. They're hitting hotels. They're hitting embassies. They're hitting airports. They're hitting oil infrastructure. Well, it'd be very tragic, but I can't speak to the details behind it because I just don't have it. It would be a tragic outcome if it's happened. I don't have the details as to what led to it. But what is clear is that the United States would not deliberately target a school. They are, on the other hand, deliberately targeting civilians, as you've seen, because you know why? They are a terroristic regime.
The Pentagon and the U.S. Central Command did not respond to a request for comment. Over the weekend, the U.S. Central Command told media outlets it was looking into reports of civilians harmed resulting from ongoing military operations. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, was also asked about the strike that Iranian state media blamed on Israel and the US. This is what he had to say. Away from that, U.S. forces continued around-the-clock assaults on Iran and Israel, mounting pressure called a broad wave of strike on Wednesday. This targeted Iranian missile site and air defense system in a campaign that a top American commander said is ahead of the game plan. As the war headed into the fifth day, global markets reacted to mounting concerns of a prolonged conflict in a region along a major corridor of oil and gas export. Gold price, 50,000 flight cancellations, and government rushed to bring stranded travelers home from the Middle East. U.S. Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of the Central Command leading the campaign, said 50,000 troops, 200 jets, and 2 aircraft carriers were engaged in a 24-hour strike into Iran from a seabed to space and cyberspace, with more assets underway.
The commander of United States Central Command. In this capacity, I lead U.S. military forces in the Middle East. I'm here to provide you an update on Operation Epic Fury, now in our 4th day of execution. First, I'd like to express my deepest condolences to the families and teammates of the extraordinary Americans who've been killed in action, Barry Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Today, I'd like to give you an operational update on where we are and provide you with some key facts. By order of the President of the United States and the Secretary of War, our military in the Middle East is undertaking an unprecedented operation. Having spent more than 36 years in the military, I could not be prouder of 2 aircraft carriers and bombers from the United States are participating in this operation, and more capability is on the way. These forces bring a massive amount of firepower, representing
used to maintain control across the country. Still on the matter, Israeli and U.S. forces pounded targets across Iran, prompting Iranian retaliatory strikes across the Gulf as the conflict spread to Lebanon, rattling global markets and sending oil prices sharply higher. 4 days into the war, U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters everything has been knocked out.
Well, they have no Navy, it's been knocked out. They have no Air Force, it's been knocked out. They have no air detection, that's been knocked out. Their radar has been knocked out. And just about everything's been knocked out. And they're doing a fantastic job.
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people, people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready, and we've had a very, very powerful impact because virtually every...
In his most extensive public comment yet, he also sought to justify the assault on Iran, saying he had ordered his forces into action because he had a feeling Iran would attack after negotiations over its nuclear program stalled.
Countries that had nothing to do with what's going on, they were sort of leaving everything alone. All of a sudden they had missiles shot in, which shows you the level of evil that we're dealing with. They'll hit people that were actually at least somewhat friendly, and they had no problems with it. Also hitting only civilian places, hotels and apartment buildings, and we're hitting them where it is much more appropriate. We're hitting them very hard. And the big scale hitting goes now. They no longer have air protection. They no longer have any detection facilities at all left. And so they're going to be in for a lot of hurt. These are bad people. These are people that killed. I guess it's 35,000. It's coming out 35,000 over the last 3 weeks. And the leader of the pack is gone. And as you know, 49 people were taken out in the first hit. And I guess there was another hit today on the new leadership. And it looks like that was pretty substantial also. So they're getting hit very hard. And we'll see what happens.
In response to the fierce assault, Iranian drones struck the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia after previously hitting a mission in Kuwait. Washington shut both embassy as well as its one in Lebanon and ordered non-emergency government personnel and their families to leave much of the Middle East. A source familiar with Israel's war plan told newsmen that the campaign had been planned to last 2 weeks and was going through its target list faster than expected, with early success in killing its leaders, including Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in the opening salvos on Saturday. In this next report, President Donald Trump was seen castigated as one of the United States' closest allies, comparing Prime Minister Keir Starmer unfavorably to Winston Churchill over Britain's limited support for U.S. strikes on Iran. The Oval Office comments were Trump's third broadside against Starmer this week, as Washington's campaign of airstrikes against Iran stoked concerns among some U.S. partners who see the war as reckless and a violation of international law.
Happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with, but this is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative with that stupid island that they have, that they gave away and took a 100-year lease, having to do with perhaps indigenous people claiming the island that never even saw the island before. What's that all about? And they ruin relationships. It's a shame. It's the UK. What they're doing with energy and what they're doing with immigration is horrible. You have the North Sea. Somebody said yesterday, "What would you do if you were the UK?" Open up the North Sea. They got windmills all over the place that are ruining the country.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Keir Starmer defended his actions in the Middle East on Monday, brushing off President Donald Trump's criticism of Britain for not joining strikes against Iran by saying his decisions were guided by law and the national interest.
Mr. Speaker, the United Kingdom was not involved in the initial strikes on Iran by the US and Israel. That decision was deliberate. We believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement. President Trump has expressed his disagreement with our decision not to get involved in the initial strikes. But it is my duty to judge what is in Britain's national interest. That is what I've done, and I stand by it. The only way to stop the threat is to destroy the missiles at source, in their storage depots or at the launchers. The US requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive purpose because they had the capabilities to do so. Yesterday evening, we took the decision to accept that new request in order to prevent Iran firing missiles across the region.
In the meantime, Britain, France and Greece are sending air defense forces to Cyprus after drones struck the Royal Air Force Akerotiri base on the island, prompting a broader regional defense military response on Tuesday. From European allies, senior Cyprus officials said an Iranian-made Shen drone hit the British base's runway after flying at low altitude to evade radar, most likely launched by Iran-backed Hezbollah from Lebanon. 2 other drones were intercepted. The Akerotiri base, though considered sovereign British territory, is close to populated areas inhabited by Cypriots, prompting hundreds to evacuate their homes as the EU member states unexpectedly got pulled into the turmoil following US and Israeli strikes on Iran and retaliatory attacks across the region by Tehran. Cyprus, which has modest defense capability and no air force, has been stepping up modernization efforts in recent years, including the purchase of Barak MX air defense system. Let's turn down to Lebanon, where Lebanon was pulled deeper into the war in the Middle East on Tuesday as Iran-backed Lebanese group Hezbollah launched missiles at Israel for a second consecutive day, and Israel will send troops into air strikes. The theater of numerous conflicts between Israel and Hezbollah, Lebanon was drawn into a spillover from the war between the United States, Israel and Iran on Monday. The United States, Israel and Iran on Monday, when the group opened fire with drones and missiles. With dozens of people killed in retaliatory Israeli strikes, Hezbollah moves to enter the conflict has sharpened long-standing divisions in Lebanon over its status as an armed group, the only Lebanese faction to keep its weapons after the 1975 to 1990 civil war. We'll take a quick break right now. When we return, the spotlight will be on U.S. First Lady Melania Trump. Stay with us for these and few stories right after the breather. Stay with us for these and few stories right after the breather. Many thanks for staying tuned. We moved now to U.S. Congress, where U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, during congressional testimony, stood by her remarks calling the acts of 2 U.S. citizens shot dead by federal immigration officers in Minneapolis domestic terrorism. Trump's immigration crackdown was praised about her statement by Democrats and some Republicans during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing.
Faced with violent the victims of that violence, domestic terrorists, as a way to calm the scene?
These violent terrorists have put them in a situation where it's unprecedented what these agents have faced.
Can you explain why you decided to brand these victims that we all saw on video, who were out protesting the activities of your agency and were killed as a result of it? How did you think that calling them domestic terrorists at that scene was somehow going to calm the situation?
You know, Senator, we are working in those situations where there's a tragic loss of life and that there is something that our agents are involved in, that we continue to deliver information.
Is it so hard to say you were wrong?
We continue, as these investigations continue to go, we will provide, I absolutely strive to provide factual information and will continue to do that.
And when you fail, do you admit it publicly?
Shortly after Rennie Good and Alex Pretty were slayed in separate incidents in January, Noem said they had appeared to have been involved in acts of domestic terrorism before a full investigation into the events that led to their death. Video evidence subsequently undercut her sessions, and her remarks were criticized by lawmakers from both parties.
On the question of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, I heard your answers to my colleague, Senator Schiff. But knowing what you do know, do you want to take an opportunity to apologize to their families that you characterized them on the basis of the information you had at the time, that they were engaged in domestic terrorism?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I certainly offer my condolences to these families and for their loss. And it was a tragic situation that we saw in Minneapolis, and we continue to work to make sure that those situations are handled appropriately.
Question. I understand you're offering condolences. You said something that accused them of being domestic terrorists. A 37-year-old mother of three, a 37-year-old Veteran Administration nurse. One question, do you want to apologize for that characterization that they were domestic terrorists?
I will continue every day to get up and to work hard to give everybody factual information and do all that I can to portray it.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a...
Lastly on Worldview today, U.S. First Lady Melania Trump chaired a meeting of the United Nations Security Council on Children and Education in Conflicts on Monday. This is 2 days after U.S. President Donald Trump and Israel launched attacks on Iran that prompted a UN warning about child safety. It was the first time a spouse of any serving world leader has chaired a meeting of the 15-member Security Council. The UN body chaired with maintaining international peace and security. The plan was announced last week before the launch of the US and Israeli strikes. Melania Trump's office said her aim was to emphasize education as a way to advance tolerance and world peace in the meeting, titled Children, Technology and Education in Conflict. In a statement to the Council, she had this to say.
The 10,113th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. Children raised in a culture rooted in intelligence develop confidence, innovate, build, compete, and maintain a deep value system. Their knowledge fosters empathy for others, transcending geography, religion, race, gender, and even local norms. They become caring people. But children raised in culture rooted in ignorance are surrounded by disorder and sometimes even conflict. When a nation restricts thought, it restricts its own future. Education is widely recognized as a fundamental human right, and yet today, so many children and young adults are banned from attending secondary schools and universities. The cost is not abstract. Collectively, your mission to maintain security while upholding the responsibility of preventing conflict during times of both war and peace is significant, must be applied evenly, and should never be carried out lightly. Peace does not need to be fragile.
In Melania's words, the U.S. stands with all of the children throughout the world. I hope soon peace will be yours. And I also hope down here on Spectrum TV that peace will soon reach the Middle East region. That's to say that this is all we have for you today on A Worldview. To stay updated on trending world events, you have to follow us on all our social media handles on Spectrum TV on Facebook, or you could go to our website at www.spectrumtvlive.ng and catch up with trending events and all our social media handles. I am Imogen James, and you've been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to enjoy the rest of the broadcast on Spectrum TV. Goodbye.